I don't like analogies. I don't like memorizing things or just being told what reality is like on very complex topics. I had a very interesting conversation with someone I met earlier today. And it was about things relating to this. They are a young guy. They were born in Ukraine, and they are 1 year of age younger than the conscription age in their country. Since they were a international student, they were able to get paperwork that would allow them to not be conscripted or and forced to stay within the confines of Ukraine. And after getting to know them for a bit, I felt comfortable asking them some questions about how young men see this conflict there, and also about how the media and the government is trying to distort truths to get people to act in a certain way and to get them to enlist and to make them scared of using whatever methods they can to escape the violence. And of course, that this is done largely by creating lies about the nature of war and the nature of people's responsibility towards each other. And these lies are said by old people, generally, who have very little skin in the game with their policies. They also make sure that, the elite that are, for example, and this isn't to be like Russian propaganda or anything. Everything I'm saying here, I'm sure it's going on in Russia as well. And it also went on in the United States during conflicts like the World Wars. There is an attempt to create this illusion that young guys that are around the age of 25 in Ukraine, if they are not willing to blindly follow the orders of another man and put their lives on the line for the statehood of their nation, that they are cowards and they are bad people, and that they owe this to the other people in their country. This is a ridiculous fucking notion. It's absolutely insane. Why is it that, and this will be true in any country, this is not specific to Ukraine. Why is it that, if this could be the case, that the leaders of nations the world over, somehow their children are always the exceptions? They're always the young people it just doesn't make sense for them to be the ones fighting. Oh no, they're in college. They're too productive for the economy. I mean, not everybody serves their country by being on the front lines. Or, oh, no. They have a very important place in the media. They're decision makers. Yes. They're future decision makers. We need to make sure that the leaders of tomorrow don't die on the battlefield today. Oh, so how very, very convenient, why is it always like this? Always, at all times. There was movements like this that happened during the World Wars, with people going around and trying to make it so people who weren't drafted, that they felt compelled to volunteer for service. I bet this has happened in literally any conflict, anywhere, the whole world over, where there was any notion of invoking conscription. And that not everybody would necessarily get conscripted. And so, of course, we need to try to pump those numbers up, and we need to create a huge illusion about the everything, so that way we can get people to act in a certain way. And a lot of people just end up going along with these things that they must know deep down are crazy, because they have some form of shame, and because there are people who are disaffected parties that will then they're willing to purport these lies because it doesn't really hurt them all that much. And it's very, very bad. It's very, very bad. And this is just a tiny part of why I hate things like fucking analogies and just taking people's word for shit, because it just gets you to go down such ridiculously incorrect paths with literally anything. Some of the things I talked to this guy about was, what are his beliefs about prisoners of war being taken? Does he believe that prisoners of war are commonly taken, or that if you surrender on either side of the conflict, you will most likely be subdued for a few moments and then summarily executed? And of course, each side will say that only the other side does that, and we are the good guys, and we follow conventions, and we have humanity, and we're the just actors here. And this is obviously ridiculous. This is not true with any military, modern or otherwise. You have to imagine if mission criteria make it so that way taking prisoners causes you to automatically fail the mission, then you will execute surrendering parties. Always. Duh. And people think this isn't a thing. And governments will try to make this seem like this isn't a thing because our boys in blue, they're the fucking good ones, and they don't fucking kill people who gave up and tried to stop the violence. Oh, no. and then we got to talk about other stuff like, well, how are people trying to get out of this? Not everyone's in a college education program and able to basically be safe because they do the same things that the children of the decision makers do. Well, those individuals, they have to do things like escape the borders of their country, emigrate illegally. And the ways that they have to do this are very treacherous. They're going to have to hike through forests and mountains. It's very dangerous, and they'll have to do it with limited supplies and very quickly and make sure they're not caught. And there's a lot of hazards, and people die doing this. And then the media, they're going to lampoon these people for doing this shit. I think there's similar stuff like this in the US, where I've heard people before say that it's funny that Mexican illegal immigrants die trying to swim across the river at the border of Texas. How fucking ridiculous and sickening. And this is a thing that's normalized in lots of places in the US, and currently with people trying to escape the conflict in Ukraine, if you're a young guy, how dare you care about your life? You owe so many things to all these other fucking people that if this conflict had never happened, they would never care about you. They just simply have a little bit of cultural identity shared with you. I really hate how you're kind of considered a know-it-all in most places in society if you simply question things. Not even making statements or saying things that like not even doing things as inflammatory as this video where I'm trying to say basically that anybody who is if you're a draft dodger, I fucking love you. Like, I am so happy you're able to pull that shit off. You know, the draft dodgers, all the conflicts the world over, past and present, they're fucking awesome. I love it. I'm sure they are lampooned in all their countries. Like, you don't even say something as inflammatory as that to get people to freak out. You could simply ask things like, well, why does it make sense to use conscription? And people would probably lose their minds. They're like, what do you mean? Should we roll over? Should we just let the other side win? This is a thing that you need to consider actually sometimes. Not saying it's the right answer here. But losing in a different way is sometimes the right answer. It's not something where you just trivially decide, oh yeah, like every conflict is worth taking. There's conflicts all the time in our day-to-day lives that aren't worth taking. And I think people understand that. But you wouldn't be allowed to even question something like this with regards to a war if your country was in it. It would be considered completely beyond the pale to simply ask a question. This kind of shit would even happen in schools. If you question people about why policy is a certain way, if you were to question a teacher or an administrator in a school, just about anywhere, about why a certain disciplinary policy is done in a particular way, you are not going to get a high IQ answer. You're going to get some lukewarm, dumb fuck answer. If you're lucky, you're going to get an analogy, you know? That's like best case scenario. Some shit that actually makes no fucking goddamn sense immediately on autopilot from the robotic person that you're dealing with. Or, I don't know, have you ever gone to the DMV or the post office, you know, try to get a passport or a license and talk to the soulless freaks that work there? Come on, everyone has experience with this shit. And yet, I think that this is not something that most people who watch this video will agree with. I think they'll think that I'm fucking crazy. man, if you think I'm crazy, call me a fucking asshole in the comments or something, please. That would just, like, turn me on. It sucks how it feels. I think naturally it feels so dangerous to make your own opinions and question things. Not that it actually is dangerous at all, but that it's just so unfortunate that it feels that way, and that people just somehow are so worried about appearing like they're questioning what everybody else just goes along with.